Hi, it's Nicole for Bella Blvd, and today I'm going to show you scrapbooking the everyday with the new Love Grows Here collection from Bella Blvd. This collection is so fun. There's all of these like neighborhood icons, houses, trees, bikes, everything. I have been working on a personal challenge to get through all of my 2020 photos so that I can say I have that year completely scrapped. So a lot of times when I am working on a project or an assignment, I try to go to those photos first. And I was so excited to find these photos from October of 2020. Now you might think October, fall, that type of thing. For me, October is still very much warm. One of the photos that you're gonna see is actually me and my kids like sweaty selfie after going for a walk. But this collection to me just really leaned into that because a lot of the photos that we had was basically us getting out, enjoying the cooler temperatures, and a lot of the like activities that we were doing involved our neighbors. And so that was kind of where my brain went, even though I'm not going to use any of the cute little houses. I know, that's kind of surprising. I thought for sure I was going to use at least one. I think I forgot. I kind of got sidetracked, which I will say is really easy for me to do when I have a brand new, never cut into collection. There's sort of this just abundance of choices, and I kind of get a little squirrel brain. So I am following a sketch that I found online, and if you know me, you know I'm going to go with those B-sides. At first, I thought I was going to use this pink heart one. I love this pink heart one. I thought this would be a good option to kind of mat this. I think this was the point where it was giving me a little bit of Easter vibes with the pink, blue, and yellow. And so I was like, I don't love this. So I'm actually going to take that pattern paper that you can see on the left side of my desk. That is those chunky, like, I think they're 2-inch stripes. I love that pattern when it shows up in Bella's collections. There's just so many different things that you can do with it. I just love it. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Typically, when I am working on a layout, whether it's my own design, a sketch, whatever it may be, I like to map out where the photos are going to go, where the majority of the paper is going to go, title, journaling, kind of figure that out before I start attaching things. So here you can see I noticed those stripes over there and I was like, you know what, that might be the perfect size to go ahead and mat these two photos, trim off the edges just a tiny bit more so that I've got a little bit wider of a frame here. And I love that this is going to give me a method to bring in that darker blue, because I'm going to use the word home from the chipboard and that has that darker blue. So I like to try to figure out ways to bring some things in. From the pattern paper with the pre-printed stripes, I'm actually going to cut about 4 stripes off of that, and that has those little houses on it, and this is going to be that band of paper and swapped out for the pink. And then originally, I thought I was going to take the tags and kind of tuck them in with the photos up there. As they were sitting on my desk, I really kind of liked this idea of them sort of coming out from the edges and then all of my layout pieces kind of being in the middle. So I'm going to go with that. And before I really start attaching anything, I'm just taking kind of like a last second look through the majority of like the stickers and the chipboards and seeing if there's anything else that I kind of need to map out placement for before I go ahead and commit to where things are and gluing things down. Now, I am going to do some hand stitching on that aqua panel, and you can see my photos are currently tucked behind it. I personally just don't enjoy stitching through that many layers. So a little bit further in the video, I'm going to show you a workaround for that. Again, it's just because I don't always love poking holes through sometimes up to 5 or 6 layers, depending on where your photos overlap and that kind of thing. It just kind of makes the hand stitching not as enjoyable for me. So I'm going to go ahead, attach this stuff down. I do keep my ATG adhesive more towards the center of the paper if I'm going to do stitching, because again, just personal preference, I don't love poking holes and stitching through adhesive. It just kind of gums up my needle. And again, as I keep going, I'm double checking placement. A lot of times this is to see if there's any stitching I can skip. Like if something's going to get covered up, I'm not going to stitch that area. But I think at this point, everything is looking like it's fitting pretty well. I'm going to cut the tops of those tags off so that I don't need to tuck them underneath anything. They're just going to butt up against the edge. Cut off this overhang. And then I like to do a pencil line for my hand stitching. This, again, just personal preference. I like to do a pencil line and then poke my holes and then erase the pencil line. I used to try to hold the ruler and poke the holes at the same time, but I use too much pressure and the ruler tends to shift and I don't notice and I end up with crooked stitching. So this, again, personal preference. So I stitched all of that. I'm going to go ahead and attach these tags up here at the top, and then I'm going to show you how I do kind of like the faux tucking. Is I lay the photo where it needs to go, mark where it touches that blue paper with a pencil and cut it so it's at an angle, and then I can like just barely tuck it underneath that edge of the paper so that it looks like I've stitched through it. So I'm going to go ahead and arrange all three of these, do that same kind of marking and angled cut. And I did heavily consider doing a lot more hand stitching on this, and I had to kind of tell myself no. I might still go back and do some more stitching, but it's one of those things where sometimes done is better than overly stitched, in my opinion. Sometimes you just need to be like, would stitching make it cute? Yes. Is it already cute? Yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these elements back that I had already made decisions on. So attached my two main photos, and then I'm going to put foam adhesive behind this together word, which was from the phrases pack. And then I'm going to nestle the word home up above it. That is from the chipboard. And I love the way that they're doing their chipboard now. It's so much thinner and it's made out of some sort of like a white material. It's not that like brown cardboard material anymore. So I love that. Typed up my journaling in a text box style, did a tiny rounded corner. And then I'm just going to kind of make sure, I like when everything sort of touches each other. It's barely touching the photo, it's barely touching the journaling, the words are barely touching each other. To me, that just kind of helps things be a little bit more cohesive and feel like they're intentional and they're not just floating. Now, I will tell you guys, I am a slow embellisher. Mostly it's just decision making, where again, it goes back to I have yet to use this collection. So everything is sort of at my disposal. And there's so many things that would work. So a lot of times it's just kind of me going back and forth, and I try to cut that out of my videos if I can. Sometimes I'll leave things in like this where I'm doing kind of like a quick sort. I love these little houses. Hindsight, I wanted to nestle one next to my title. I completely spaced it and forgot. And that happens a lot. It's usually because I will start sorting through something and I will catch something, which in this case it was like the trees and the florals, and I kind of go on like a side quest. I did not plan on making like a little scene up here at the top, and I ended up doing that. Again, it's where, you know, you start following like a recipe and then you sort of start adding your own seasonings and ingredients, and that's kind of where your natural style starts to show. So tucked some of the larger tree options up there. I love these little puffy clouds. I'm going to put them up with some foam adhesive and just kind of fill in some of the yellow background paper up here. I am going to include one of the bikes. There was two. I went ahead and just did the one bike. I only have one bike rider in my house. One of my kids never learned. He was just never interested. So he, on this day, ran up and down the street while my daughter and the neighbor rode their bikes up and down the street. And then from here is where I'm just kind of indecisive per usual. I go back and forth, and for me on this one, the florals was kind of it for me. I loved the hearts and the florals, and I just thought, you know what, let's go ahead and find areas to sprinkle them in and around the title, kind of in the spacing between the title and the three photos at the top, so that they feel like they're, again, kind of cohesive and grounded all together. And pretty much just tuck things in places that make sense to my brain, not necessarily any sort of design concept. I'm very much a you do you. I'm very much a, embellish the way that makes sense to you and what looks good to you. A lot of this stuff I did pop up on foam adhesive. I love the 1mm size from scrapbook.com. I feel like it gives that lifted look without the super bulky feel that you can sometimes get, especially when you're putting these into albums. I did use some of the florals and the hearts from the enamel shapes pack to kind of further embellish those florals and kind of fill in some of the different areas. And then I grabbed the puffy sticker sheet, and I'm going to do one of the clouds, couple of the florals, again, just kind of finding ways to bring in some smaller shapes, different texture, and include some of the other colors that I've got going on. And then I filled in that little open area of my photo, and that was pretty much it. I do need to go back and put my date somewhere, but these photos weren't from a specific day, so I just need to find somewhere to put the month and year. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have yet to subscribe, I would encourage you to do so. Hit the notification bell so you know when uploads go up. Leave me any questions you have down below, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.